Welcome to the American Muslim Community Foundation's podcast, Muslim Philanthropy. My name is Muhi Khwaja, and today we're here with Laetitia Cairoli. She is the Director of Development at Oasis in Paterson, New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Laetitia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Share a little bit more about yourself and how you got to your role at Oasis.
Okay, well, I have had my whole career really in the nonprofit arena. I began actually in the Peace Corps, where I was posted in Morocco as a teacher of English in a high school in a very small rural town. I eventually did a PhD in anthropology, and with that, I returned to Morocco and studied and worked with young women, young girls working in the garment industry in Morocco. I then taught anthropology for some years and then returned to the development world with Oasis as director of development, in which post I do a large amount of fundraising, marketing, communications for Oasis.
That's so inspiring. And, the Peace Corps is obviously one of those iconic service organizations. And what inspired you to go to the Peace Corps?
Um, I suppose I've always had an interest, first of all, an interest in the world. The Peace Corps was once in a lifetime experience to not only, it's not about travel, the Peace Corps, because essentially you become stationed in one place where you spend 2 years. And it's a remarkable way to learn about people and a culture because you have to learn the language, you have to function, you have to live in the culture. Um, so that really that the idea of doing that was really motivating for me, and I recommend it to anyone. Now, right now, the Peace Corps is on hold, of course, with the virus, but it's a fantastic way to get to know another culture and to understand how other people live.
Yeah, and several other organizations since then have, replicated the model and done it for teaching or done it
Yeah.
for other areas across the world, really.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, in terms of like hearing JFK like announce the Peace Corps and then go to the Peace Corps, like, did you have other friends that were doing it? Like,
Actually, you know what? At the time, I did not. Honestly, I undergraduate majored in anthropology, so I had a fascination for culture and really digging deep and understanding how other people live in the world. And there is no other way to do it, I think, because with the Peace Corps, it's even different from doing anthropological research because you're actually given a post in the culture, you're actually given a job, which really allows you to have a real understanding of how other people live. So it was probably comes out of my interest in anthropology as well.
that's cool. And where did you go to undergrad?
I went to undergrad in Vermont at the University of Vermont
Okay. And where did you earn your PhD?
at Columbia in New York City. So at
Fantastic.
Columbia University. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, and obviously the Peace Corps really was a gift in that I was then prepared to do the anthropological research because I had already mastered the language and I could work in the country of Morocco, so one flowed very nicely to the other. So
Hmm.
it was.
And did you grow up in Vermont?
No, actually, I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, grew up in New Jersey. Yeah. And
So
and
now,
that's where I live today.
yeah. So I was just gonna say, now you've gone full circle.
I've
It's
gone full circle.
yeah,
Exactly. I live in New Jersey with my own family now. So
exciting. And you mentioned after your PhD, you started working at Oasis or
no, after
concurrently.
my PhD, in fact, I taught anthropology at the university for a number of years.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I moved from there into sort of coming full circle when I found the position at Oasis. I was I was so inspired by the work of Oasis, in part because the population, the people that Oasis serves, are enormously diverse. Oasis is in the city of Paterson, which is a very diverse city. So we have clients from 25 different countries. We serve only women and children, and they come from 25 different countries. Paterson is now, and always was, a city of immigrants. So there's such a large immigrant community in Paterson. And so for me, that was a great opportunity to find Oasis and to work at a place that is serving so many people from so many different backgrounds.
That's great. And was your first role with Oasis in development or?
Actually, it was. I
Yeah.
began in Oasis as a grant writer. I had had previous experience because I had directly out of college worked at CARE International as a grant writer, which CARE International is an international development and relief organization. So I came into Oasis initially as a grant writer and then moved into the development director position when the previous director left several years ago.
Yeah.
So
Many of our listeners will be familiar with a different CARE. We're familiar with the Council of American Islamic Relations. So, what is this CARE CARE?
So CARE, it's capital C, capital A, it's all acronyms now. CARE it's an international development and relief organization. It was founded in the United States. It was founded right after World War II. And the beginnings of CARE were what they called care packages. They were sending food directly to other nations in need after World War II. Today, it's evolved into a very different, obviously, kind of operation, but it's a very large operation that is private, but it sustains a lot of government support, U.S. government support, and they do development and relief all over the world, all over the globe. So that's where I really got my start writing grants.
Yeah, and I can see, you have such like a passion for international development through the Peace Corps, working with the community in Morocco, and I can see a definite link to the work that
Uh-huh.
CARE International does.
Yeah, it was a close link because of the international nature of the work, you know. Okay. So Oasis is a relatively small nonprofit organization. We operate on around 3.3 million a year, increasing slightly each year, obviously. We are almost entirely privately funded, so that most of our funding is coming from individual donors and foundations and corporations. We have only about 3 to 4% of money coming from the US government. So I do fundraising, and we do a lot of fundraising to secure that 3.3 million each year. Um, we began in 1997 in a church hallway. The organization really is a grassroots kind of organization. It was founded by a small group of women who actually don't come from Paterson, but come from the neighboring suburbs. And they founded the organization as a soup kitchen because they noticed that throughout the city of Paterson, most of the soup kitchens were not serving women with young children, because most of the soup kitchens were serving populations largely of men who were struggling with issues of addiction and other kinds of issues, thereby making those soup kitchens fairly unsafe for children. So these women started in a small church hallway, and they began to feed women and children in Paterson. Now, it's important to note that Paterson is really one of the third poorest cities in New Jersey. It's a struggling post-industrial city. It's a city of immigrants, a lot of them new immigrants, so that the statistics show that something like 1/3 of people in Paterson today live at or below the poverty line,
Wow.
and another third at least are immigrants, new immigrants, and many of them don't speak English. So that's the population that Oasis is serving. So it began in 1997, but about 10 years later, they were able to secure funding to build a building. And today we work in a 3-story building, and we don't just do soup. We don't just do a soup kitchen. We don't
Hmm.
just do food. We do a network of integrated anti-poverty services. So we have the soup kitchen, free food, free breakfast, free lunch to women and children every day. We have other kinds of basic need supports. We give free emergency food bags. We give baby diapers, baby formula. But we also have a whole number of courses for women. So we have courses in ESL to teach English. We have GED courses so women can get their high school diploma. We have job training courses. So from 9 to 2 every day, our building, pre-pandemic and hopefully starting this summer again, but our building is full of women taking classes so that they can rise out of poverty, so that they can find themselves in a better position. In the afternoon, we serve children. We have a very academic after-school children for the after-school program for Patterson Public School kids who struggle in a school system that struggles. It's an economically depressed city, and the school system struggles, and many of the children struggle academically. So from 3 to 6, we have children and we have teens in a highly structured, very academic program that where we aim to raise their test scores, where we aim to improve their literacy. On Saturdays, we have extracurricular programs. We have art classes for kids. In the evening, just 2 years ago, we began evening classes with GED and ESL in the evening because we had found that many people couldn't come during the day. And our goal is really to meet the needs of people in poverty and to help them make steps forward, the steps they need forward with education so that they can improve their lives and their children's lives and their families' lives.
Yeah, and it almost seems like a community development center with a lot of wraparound services
That's what
to
it is.
uplift the
Yeah.
community,
Uh-huh.
meet them where they're at, get them to a better place, and
Precisely.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what we're aiming to do. And the beauty of it, one thing that really touches me is, once again, the diversity. So I think we came to you because we have had some funding from other Muslim organizations, because particularly in our ESL programs, we serve a large number of women who are from Bangladesh, and we serve a
hmm
large number of women from the Arab countries. And that's how we made the connection to you, because many of the new immigrants in Patterson are from Southeast Asia and also from the Muslim Middle Eastern countries. Um, and we serve them, especially with the English classes,
yeah,
but also with the
definitely,
other services.
yeah. Um, you know, Tell us a little bit more about the organizational structure at Oasis. Like, what does the development staff look like,
Uh-huh.
and a little bit more about the organization.
Okay, so the development staff is actually fairly small. It consists of myself, a full-time events manager. So we have, because this organization began really as a community or a grassroots group of women, we are very dependent still on events where we bring in people and friends and neighbors who give us support through events. So we have a number of events which have been unfortunately canceled throughout this pandemic, but which we hope to revive this summer, we hope.
Right.
So we have a number of events. We have an events manager, and then we have a full-time grant writer who is the person who initially reached out to you, Hamna Colt, who in a full-time position writes grants and secures funding from foundations and corporations and community groups as well. There's me, and then we have a part-time assistant as well. So that's where we are in terms of our development team.
Great.
Um,
Yeah, that's definitely helpful. And seeing other organizations or small nonprofits or medium-sized nonprofits, how they spread out their teams and what they do. I think those
right,
types of things are helpful for other nonprofits to see that it takes multiple
right.
people.
Takes multiple
And
people.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think definitely within the Muslim community and other Muslim-led initiatives, the idea of having development staff definitely has expanded in the last 5 years.
hmm,
I would say it's still pretty limited to just one person and not
yeah,
a department yet. So
yeah,
there's still room to grow, and would love to kind of see that being the next step of organizations hiring development associates,
right,
event planners they've always had, but they've never had it like from the development perspective for like an entire department. And hopefully, there's so many more nonprofit leaders that are getting certified through Indiana University and their certificate in
Right.
fundraising management. So
Hmm.
definitely a lot of qualified people, and looking forward to having these organizations grow their staff as well.
Right. And the grant writing, I have to, the having an events planner, if you're very events dependent, having the
Mm-hmm.
planner is crucial because it's a very time consuming part of fundraising. As you probably know, events planning is very time consuming. And then also, it's been very, very crucial for us to have the full time grant writer because we do secure much of our support through foundations and corporations, which requires the grant writing, you know.
Definitely.
So and I should add that we are amidst this crazy pandemic, we are expanding our building. So we launched about 2 years, 2018. We launched a capital campaign because we were finding in 2018, 2017, we had women on our waiting list to take our ESL classes. We had children on our waiting list to get involved in our after school program. Again, I'll note that all of our programs are free. The resources are free, the classes are free. So we've had long waiting lists. We haven't had the room to accommodate all the people who want our services. We launched a campaign to expand the building. And while the campaign isn't complete, we're still in fundraising mode for it. We have begun construction. So amidst this crazy pandemic, we're actually growing, but we're really excited about that because the pandemic, as you know, has really struck low-income communities very hard. And we are thinking that in September of 21, please God, this pandemic will be over, or we'll be back out, and we'll be able to enroll even more women and children in the programs, who will probably be in need because of the economic impact of this pandemic. So
It's really inspiring
exciting.
and exciting.
Very
Yeah.
exciting. It's very exciting in this kind of depressing time. We are giving out food throughout the pandemic. We've seen in Patterson an enormous need for food. And when the pandemic struck, or when the pandemic closed the city of Patterson down in March, we quickly suspended our on-site educational programs and began an emergency food distribution operation, and have been giving out enormous numbers of hot grab and go lunches and enormous numbers of food bags to the community, which we've really focused on over the past 9 months or so. Um,
Yeah,
so
I mean, it was already a service you provided, and being able to shift priorities and meet the needs of the community immediately, that's really impressive.
yeah, those were the immediate needs, and we could see it almost a week. What happened literally on March 16th is the city of Patterson shut down, the schools shut down, the public offices shut down. Eventually, all the stores were told to shut, and restaurants, etc. And so we had lines of people lining up for food, and we could see the need. And we, fortunately, perhaps because we're dependent on private funding, we were able to go to our donors, our individuals, our foundations, and say, "Hey, can you please help?" And they responded in a tremendous way. So we've been able to distribute food, which is what's needed right now. Um, so
That's great.
yeah, it's been great, really great.
So I wanted to ask, we're highlighting Oasis as part of a series for Women's History Month.
Uh-huh.
What does Women's History Month mean to you?
Well, the condition of women all over the world is challenged. Women are challenged more. Women are challenged all over the world. At Oasis, we're extremely aware of, for example, one of our features right from the beginning is the fact that we offer free childcare to any woman who is in a class. So between 9 and 2, if a woman comes to class, wants to learn English, wants to get her high school diploma, wants to get job training, for free, we will take care of her infant or toddler in our childcare room. Um, and that really tells you what Oasis is about. It's about the recognition that women have unique barriers. I'm sorry, there's a bug there. Women have unique barriers, and a unique challenge when they confront poverty. And it's incumbent upon us to meet those challenges, to help them, help put those barriers out of their way. And the care of children is a primary a primary responsibility of women, and we want to make sure that that doesn't interfere with a woman's opportunity to move ahead. So we are an organization for women and for children, and we serve women in a unique way to meet their unique needs. And so that's very important. It's very important.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. People can find out more about Oasis on Instagram at Oasis Patterson NJ or online at oasisnj.org. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself or about Oasis?
Well, we're just delighted that we're delighted to be here. We're delighted to tell you about Oasis, and we're delighted to have your support. We're thank you for giving us a voice, and for standing up for women.
Of course, we're happy to, and hopeful that people will learn more about Oasis and provide that support that is needed. So
Okay.
thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Of course.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay.